A road trip across America. How much does it cost, you might be asking? Well, in 2022, I did 105 hikes from Vancouver Island all the way down to Alabama and back, which is 5,371 miles or 8,644 kilometers over 3 months. And I've got all the breakdown of all my numbers here because I have to do my taxes here. So let's go over it. I started up here in Vancouver Island in the middle here in Port Alberni, which is where I live. And I came down here through Washington, down a little bit through Oregon, Idaho, into Salt Lake area, down into Zion and southern Utah, and all the way over a little bit through Texas, Oklahoma, to Alabama here. So not quite to the opposite side, but pretty darn close, especially since I'm starting out of the United States up in Canada here. I came back through here, through Springfield, and back to Colorado. Went up through all these different areas here. And I should note, I go and do hikes, so I'm bouncing up and down. I'm not just driving through. I'm driving around town. I'm getting supplies. I'm going and doing day hikes. So you can see here, there's so many times when I'm driving up to St. Mary's Glacier to do James Peak. This video is online if you want to check that out. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Same with Mount Bierstadt, Square Top Mountain, out to Frisco, Mount Snicktow. Like, I'm always driving out to different places. It's not just a straight line. So I don't show all of that on my map here. I've got all my numbers here, and let's not get bogged down with all my math up here. But basically, I broke these down into the different categories I have to file them for my taxes. So I've got my meals, my gas, my supplies, travel, and my petty cash, just anything I paid with cash. So I took out $200 US, which transferred into $271.51 Canadian. And at the end of it, I had $100 left. So I didn't really use that much cash. You're mostly just use them for this category here, travel, which is just like the America the Beautiful Pass, which is a national park pass that lets you into all the national parks. Sometimes there's state parks. They kind of just, gouge you a little bit for $5 to enter and park and look at the one little thing, which kind of sucks. But sometimes they're really amazing, like the Malad Gorge State Park. That's the name of the gorge. It's amazing. That one's worth the $5. That's where you want the cash, because often there's not someone working there, but they still demand you pay. It's kind of like they don't have a machine or anything. It's like you have to pay with cash. So that's the main reason you'd want cash. But for the rest of the stuff here, it's a little skewed heavy on the top end here, which is May. So I did a 3-month road trip from May, June, and to the end of July. I was back here basically by August 1st, or maybe it was July 31st, something like that. So the food, I front loaded this with food from Costco, because it was like, it's just cheap to stock up. Places like Silverton, Colorado, the food there is really expensive, but I found there's definitely some stuff there. You got to think what people don't want to eat, because that's usually what's the cheapest. And for me, that was finding like canned beets and peas and corn. Anything sort of canned vegetables in that town is still really cheap. So that's what I basically lived off of. Is I'd make chili, and I'd add some extra beans and then some beets or some canned corn or peas or anything like that, and mix it in, make a big bowl. And sometimes I put that in a wrap, and that's what I would eat. I didn't do a lot of cooking because I wanted to spend my time hiking. If we go back to my expenses, you can see $767 in May, because I front loaded it with pasta and canned beans and canned vegetables, etc., dried mango, that kind of thing. In June, it went down, and then July went down, so I just started spending less and less. At the beginning too, I was eating a bit of Subway and that kind of thing, just because I was just trying to figure out the flow of things, and I'd get like hungry. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna go eat Subway. And so I racked up probably about $100 that first month just on like eating Subway and that kind of thing. For the other 2 months, I didn't have that at all. So for the first 3 months, actually, I believe these numbers are American numbers, because there's my American total. So all of these boxes up here, I just changed these two because they were the Canadian numbers. These are all American numbers. I converted it to Canadian afterwards, so you can see both. Basically, I spent $1,200 in food total for the 3 months, which is $1,600 Canadian. But something to note with that, I still have about $400 worth of dried food in my vehicle that I had pulled out. Some of that I brought before I went to, like this I bought in April, I bought here, and some of it was from this when I bought food. So don't load up so much food where you have 8 months worth. That's what I had, like just way too much. Now, if you look at the gas, it's pretty straightforward here, about $300 a month. And then I drove all the way out to Alabama and back, which I think cost me $400 to do that from Colorado. So you look once again at my map here, all the way from right here, kind of this Great Dunes National Park, this kind of area, all the way out here and back cost me $400. So if you're only doing half, you can just kind of do the math on that. I'll show you a quick way to get a real accurate estimate of how much gas costs. You don't have to kind of just estimate it like that, but I was just looking at it because this was to visit my family who's all flying in there, and this was just for road trips. So like, what did this cost versus what did this cost? Now, if I look at my supplies, this is anything for like my cameras or any sort of straps, that kind of things. These are all business related products. So you probably won't have any of this stuff. You might have a few things that you have to kind of deal with your vehicle if you have problems or whatever, but that was $269 US or $358 Canadian. So it was around $264 a month for my food. I had to do some advanced math on that. See, I've got restaurants up here, and then there's also some supplements like vitamin powder, etc. So I kind of minus some things and averaged it out. So it's about, you know, a little over $250 a month on food, and then $300 a month on gas. But I'm driving around a lot. If you're not moving around that much, it's obviously going to go down, which I'll show you here in a minute. So my total cost was, off my bank, said $5,443 Canadian. If you go based off these categories, it's $4,300.21. Now there's a difference there of $1,122. Now, to break up that difference, I need to know obviously for my taxes, but to show you guys, I have Anytime Fitness, which I already pay for because I live here and I go to Anytime Fitness, but that's where I use my shower. And I would get free Wi-Fi, and it was a place for me to sometimes just go and hang out in the building. They had nice couches and stuff I could sit on and work and just get out of my vehicle. So that's included too. I'm paying that anyways, but it's in the cost. And then I had travel insurance, like I mentioned before, which is $269. I had to do my drone test, become a certified commercial pilot in the States, was $226. And that totals $653. There's another $468 unaccounted for, which is my cell phone. And there's a whole bunch of other miscellaneous stuff which gets wrapped up into that. So these are expenses I'd be paying regardless, or one-time things like the drone test and the insurance. As for the totals I mentioned earlier, 5,371 miles, 8,644 kilometers. That was 125 hours of driving. And that basically allowed me to achieve this: 105 hikes, 8 arches, 5 lakes, 5 lake hikes. Some of those had 4 lakes in each one. I think there was probably 30 lakes, 35 lakes total, 8 waterfall hikes, and 74 summits. So that basically does it for my whole wrap up of how much it cost. It's basically right here, $4,321. If you're talking the costs of going there, you can also minus out some of this stuff. Realistically, it's probably, I have other numbers up here. You know, if I didn't go to Alabama and I removed the supplies and excess food, it only cost me $3,000. Now let's take a look at the gas and how you can save money. This is really interesting tip. If we go to this website called gasbuddy.com, I'm not affiliated with them. I just like this website. It's very useful. You go plan your trip. You can put in a location. So I live in Port Alberni, and then you click on that and say if I'm going down to San Diego, you pick that. You can pick, like, do you want round trip one way, metric, US, my vehicle. So it knows, it'll figure out your miles per gallon and all that. So I have a 2009 Honda CRV all-wheel drive. There we go. See, and it figures this all for you. You just calculate the trip, and then what this will do is it'll find all the cheapest gas stations along that route, and see it costs $210 one way down to San Diego. There's an app for this thing. I use it quite a bit because I live in, like I said, Vancouver Island. We have the most expensive gas, I think, on Earth. Maybe aside from Vancouver, it's a little bit more expensive. And so often we have to, like, you know, I use that to find which gas station is cheaper. Sometimes it's cheaper to drive half an hour out of the city, and I'll still save money getting gas. Now in the States though, I should note, because Canada, I think our gas stations, it's just a big monopoly with maybe 2 big corrupt corporations that control everything. So our gas prices don't vary that much. We'll have like $1.91 per liter, and then other gas stations $1.90 or $1.89 per liter. It doesn't vary a lot. But in the States, I don't know, you guys have all these weird gas stations, American Eagle, and the one with a big dinosaur on the, it's quite interesting. And I'm guessing some of those are independently owned, because they'll have one gas station that's, say, $4 a gallon, and across the street there's another one that's $3.51 a gallon. Like, it makes no sense. The prices are so vastly different. So this Gas Buddy website, they have a app you can use. So I'm always pulling up that app when I roll into a new city. I'm like, okay, where's the cheap gas station? So if you guys found these tips helpful on how to save money doing a road trip across America, or really anywhere, and how much it costs for me to do a road trip from one side of the continent to the other, be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Until next one, have a great day.